competitiveness, about efficiency, and the profit margin really rules the day. It's harsh, but it's also true to say that in this business world, people operate on the principle of self-interest a lot of the time. Dog eat dog, and they don't really factor altruism in when they're thinking about what the best way to do things are or what they want the outcomes of their actions to be. So this leads many business students, I find, and professionals to believe that charity is like not part of their world at all. Beyond corporate social responsibility, it's not really something they factor in. They think, social means handouts, it means non-competitive, it means, hosting fundraising benefits, drinking a lot of champagne. None of these things have to be true. And it's not to say that people who are really ingrained in business are narrow-minded or snobby or they don't get it. They've been taught and socialized in a way that makes it difficult for them to really see how improving social welfare is something that can get caught up in business and not just charity. And how it does have a place in a capitalist economy, and it's not just something that is there for fundraisers and charity drives. So I know this is probably getting boring, but I promise I have points, so if you keep listening, they'll be apparent. So in terms of this being problematic, that's not to say that people who are really involved in business are the only ones who have a problem, because the veterans of the nonprofit world often see any imposition of business principles or business mindsets in their fields as kind of expressions of greed, or like the slow creep of profits over people. They're going to be taken over by these really kind of capitalist mentalities, and they think that this is going to cut into their ability to really serve the marginalized and to work for equity and to strive for improved social outcomes, because they don't see these things as compatible. So over our few short years of existence, we've run into trouble reaching both of these groups of people, and we obviously want to reach both because we want to take those talents from the nonprofit worlds and the business worlds and put them together to create something that's better than the sum of its parts. Our status and relevance in the management faculty certainly doesn't reflect that we're a charter club, which is like the highest ranking of club in our little world. We got Club of the Year last year, but simply put, a lot of management students don't really care about us. They think we're a bit of a bleeding heart option. They don't think we give them the field-related experience they need. And conversely, groups working for social good on campus either don't really know who we are, or they see us first as a management club and not really something that's interested in social impact. So how have we tackled this problem, and how can you guys tackle this problem? So we have a process. I wouldn't say that we have a solution, because we certainly haven't solved this issue. And we started out as an organization that was actually strictly principled on social business, not just social enterprise. So that's no longer the case, because we've moved towards being more flexible and just like encompassing more people and more perspectives. And so I think it's best to begin any attempt to reach student populations with a clear, concise, compelling definition of social enterprise. And I think it's really key for people in MyVision clubs to know a definition like this, whatever one it is that you find most efficient, like off the top of your head. Like you should be able to rattle it off. What is social enterprise? Why does it matter? What is social business? Why does it matter? So if you look up social enterprise Ashoka, like on Google, there's a really great definition. It's long. I'm not going to read it to you, but you can Google it. And all that to say that what you should really know from this definition are the key points, and you should be able to not only express them, but to contextualize them for people, to provide examples based on these definitions. You should really know what you're talking about. I think a lot of the time we all have this like fuzzy idea of what social enterprise is. We're in the club and we can't give you 5 points on like what we're talking about. We need to be clear, and we need to be able to provide examples. So on that topic of contextualizing the definition of what you're talking about, you have to make your speech to your audience in a targeted way, right? So it's different talking to management students, talking to people who are really engaged in the nonprofit world. They're not the same, they don't have the same mentality, and you need to play to that. So we work with a basic premise. MyVision is a global movement of young people pursuing sustainable, innovative solutions to pervasive social problems. That's entirely accurate, and it's also very vague, so then we can take it and we can adapt it to whoever we're talking to. So if we're tabling in Bronfman, the management building here at McGill, and we're trying to market our MyVision chapter to a crowd of business students, we might start by inquiring, have you ever wondered if business principles can be reconciled with putting the brakes on social inequality? And most students are not heartless, and they will have thought about this, but they've never really probed it, they have never really been asked. So then you might ask them, what do you think the biggest problems are with nonprofits? And believe me, business students will give you a lot of problems, because they just don't think it's very helpful, I've found a lot of the time. So in the end, I always find that this discussion comes around to something like competitiveness and sustainability. That's what they're worried about. And this is where we can really sell the concept of social enterprise. We're talking about entrepreneurial business thinking that prioritizes leading the field, engendering a spirit of competitiveness and economic and environmental sustainability. So it's about outthinking the competition. It's coming up with the best way to solve a social problem, not just collecting the money, but what is the best way to present a solution. It's not about a Band-Aid fix, it's about remodeling entire fields, which is really, I think, compelling to management students. It's also good to push the model of social business as an example of social enterprise when you talk to people who are involved in management, because it makes more sense to them. When we're talking to people who are more charitably minded, I only have probably 60 seconds left, so I'm going to rush through this. I always find it really helpful to point out that what they do is great, their goals are right, but they may not be going about it in the most sustainable way. And I like to use the example of the well. I've beat this one to death over the past 3 years. Basically, an organization runs a charity campaign, they go into a remote village and they build this well. 10 years down the line, it's broken, the government's overturned, and no one can get into the village to fix it, and no one knows how because the road's down and blah, blah, blah. You can come up with a million problems. Social enterprise would have figured out a solution to make that system sustainable. It would have perhaps, trained a mechanic, bought a truck that could get from village to village and bring necessary tools. It's just a different mindset. So that's what you really have to make clear. So in the end, what is social enterprise and what is MyVision? In reality, it's different things to different people, but we're united around the common cause of doing good in a pragmatic way and in a sustainable way. I'd like to say that social enterprise is an entirely new way of achieving social justice. You take the moral foundation of charitable work and you put it together with a business ethos, and you create these new methods of problem solving. That's really what it is. It's all about problem solving. It's the perfect example of taking the best of both worlds. If you take chocolate chip cookies and you put them around ice cream, you get a way better ice cream sandwich than going to the store and buying one of those Oreo things. So I think that's a pretty good way to talk about what social enterprise is. It's simple and it's genius, and I think that that's what we need to make clear. If anyone grasps the enormity of innovation, they want to be a part of it, and social enterprise is all about innovation. It's about changing the way we do things and working for better outcomes. I think our generation is best placed to grasp this. We're not entrenched in these mindsets about capitalism and bonuses and all that stuff, and we're not obsessed with running charity campaigns. So I think we're good to go, and I think you guys just need to go out there and talk about it. I've probably run over time.